There are things men will never say out loud, not to their friends, not to their partners, maybe not even to themselves. But deep down, certain behaviors from women leave them completely captivated, drawn in like a moth to a flame of theirs, a certain kind of energy that doesn't need to be loud to be felt. It doesn't need to announce its presence. It simply enters the room and shifts something in the air. That's the energy of a woman who knows who she is. She's not chasing attention. She's not overextending herself to be seen. She doesn't need validation because she's already validated herself in silence. And that's the kind of power that draws others in without them even realizing it. Her presence is not about volume, it's about vibration. It's in the way she walks, like she owns every step she takes. In the way she looks around, unhurried, unbothered, completely connected to the moment. She doesn't chase, she attracts. There's no performance. There's just truth. And that truth radiates from the way she chooses to carry herself, the way she says more with her eyes than most people can with paragraphs. When someone like that enters your orbit, there's a shift, a pause, a recalibration. People lean in, drawn not by drama or artificial shine, but by something deeper, something real. There's nothing louder than the confidence of someone who doesn't need to speak to be heard. And the irony? It's this quiet assurance that shakes the foundation the most. It unsettles the ones used to controlling the room. It disrupts those addicted to attention because this kind of presence doesn't demand, it deserves. And the difference is everything. It's not about seduction in the usual sense. It's about power, real, authentic, and unforced. It's about knowing that attraction doesn't begin with appearance, it begins with energy. There's something so irresistible about someone who doesn't try to impress. The absence of need is magnetic. The refusal to seek external validation signals inner peace. And inner peace, that's the most dangerous kind of allure there is, because it can't be bought, borrowed, or mimicked. It's cultivated. It's earned. It's rare. And people will cross oceans for what feels rare. But the mystery isn't just in her presence, it's in her restraint. Because there's another layer to this. It's in what she doesn't say, what she holds back, what she chooses not to share. Not because she's hiding, but because she understands the value of emotional privacy. She's not an open book. She's a story that unfolds one chapter at a time if you earn it. There's an art to not giving it all away, to allowing people to sit in curiosity, to giving just enough to engage the soul, but not enough to satisfy the ego. Because when everything is available too quickly, it loses value. It becomes predictable, expected. But when someone keeps you guessing, when they reveal layers slowly, deliberately, something far more powerful happens. Emotional investment. People don't fall for perfection. They fall for mystery, for wonder, for the quiet ache of not knowing what's next. And that ache is where attraction blooms. It's where the imagination comes alive. It's where longing begins. And this mystery, it doesn't come from playing games. It comes from authenticity, from the ability to enjoy solitude, from the refusal to perform for approval. When a woman knows that her value isn't in what she gives away, but in what she chooses to withhold with grace, she becomes infinitely more captivating. She teaches that depth is not about oversharing. It's about meaningful sharing. That connection is not instant, it's earned. And in that space between exposure and curiosity, something electric happens. Emotional tension is born. And tension, when rooted in authenticity, is irresistible. She creates a kind of emotional gravity, one that doesn't beg to be noticed but demands to be remembered, one that haunts the thoughts not because she tried to, but because she didn't need to. That haunting power lives in the mystery, the knowing that there's more, but it's not for everyone. Only the worthy, only the attentive, only the ones who listen, not just hear. And when that mystery is coupled with independence, the attraction becomes undeniable. Because when a woman makes it clear that she doesn't need anyone to complete her, that she's already whole yet still makes the conscious decision to invite someone into her life, that's not weakness. That's power. There's nothing more seductive than choice over dependence. When someone has the freedom to walk away but chooses to stay, that's love in its most honest form. That's connection without chains. And it hits differently. She lives her life, builds her dreams, tends to her healing, creates joy in her own name. Her world doesn't stop because of attention or rejection. She has goals, she has depth, she has direction. And that direction isn't rerouted for approval. She teaches that love isn't sacrifice, it's alignment. That partnership isn't possession, it's presence. And her independence is the proof. She doesn't lean on anyone for identity. She is her identity. And that kind of sovereignty doesn't intimidate, it inspires. It forces those around her to rise, not to rescue, to match her energy, not manage her insecurities, to build with her, not distract her from building. And in a world where so many seek love from a place of lack, she becomes the exception, the one who seeks it from a place of abundance. She knows her worth isn't negotiable. That affection doesn't override standards. That attraction doesn't excuse disrespect. And that love, when chosen freely and fearlessly, becomes the most powerful force there is. People don't always know how to articulate why they feel drawn to this kind of energy. They just feel it. It sits in the background of their thoughts. It lingers long after the conversation ends. It echoes in their silence. Because when you meet someone who is confident, mysterious, and whole, you don't forget them. You can't. They represent the kind of person we all wish we could be. The kind who doesn't need to chase, because they attract what aligns. The kind who doesn't fear solitude, because they've made peace with themselves. The kind who isn't afraid to walk away, because they'd rather be alone than be with someone who doesn't recognize their value. This is the kind of presence that's not just seductive, it's transformational. It doesn't just invite admiration, it demands evolution. It doesn't just spark interest, it rewrites expectations. And in doing so, it changes the game, not by playing harder, but by refusing to play at all. There is something deeply magnetic about someone who is unapologetically themselves, who doesn't dilute their essence to fit into society's expectations. When someone embraces the fullness of who they are, they become unforgettable, not because they try to be, but because they stop trying to be anything else. That kind of authenticity radiates a rare kind of power, especially when it lives in the balance between softness and strength. There is a unique grace in those who allow their tenderness to exist right alongside their fire, who know that being nurturing, emotional, or sensitive doesn't make them fragile, it makes them real. True femininity isn't weakness. It's a superpower. It's not about submission or silence. It's about depth, connection, intuition, and emotional intelligence. When someone walks in alignment with that truth, they carry a frequency that commands attention, not because it's loud, but because it's pure. This kind of presence doesn't chase chaos, but it doesn't fear it either. It adapts. It flows. It bends without breaking. That kind of energy holds space for others to be themselves without judgment, and in doing so becomes a sanctuary in a world full of noise and performance. It's not about perfection. It's about wholeness. That kind of wholeness doesn't come from external praise, it comes from deep internal alignment. From years of learning when to speak up and when to walk away. From embracing vulnerability not as a weakness, but as the most courageous form of strength. It's easy to perform. It's harder to be. And yet, when someone chooses to be fully in their skin, fully alive in their spirit, and fully open in their heart, they create something unforgettable. Their softness becomes a weapon, not against others, but against everything the world has told them they have to be in order to be worthy. And that kind of quiet rebellion is impossible to ignore. But what's even more rare than raw femininity is the ability to simply be fully and unapologetically, without performance. There is an entire world of difference between performing confidence and actually owning it. One is exhausting. The other is magnetic. There is no seduction in striving, only strain. But presence, that is where the magic lives. When someone is truly present, they don't need to prove their value. It's felt in the way they listen, in the way they look you in the eyes, undistracted, in the way they're not performing to be accepted, but instead allowing space for genuine connection. That kind of presence is so rare in a world addicted to the highlight reel. It speaks louder than any filter, any scripted conversation, any curated image. What makes this so seductive is the emotional safety it creates. People are drawn to those who make them feel seen. And when someone is truly grounded in themselves, it invites others to put their masks down, to breathe, to rest, to stop pretending. And in that moment of exhale, in that moment of shared truth, a connection is born that no surface-level charm can replicate. But real presence comes from inner work, from being okay with silence, from not needing to fill space to feel validated. It's the comfort of sitting in one's own skin without rushing to fix, please, or perform. That comfort creates an unspoken confidence that doesn't shout for attention but somehow always receives it. What's deeply attractive about this is that it feels safe and unpredictable at the same time. Safe, because it's real. Unpredictable, Because it's free. There's no agenda. There's no attempt to mold into someone else's idea of likability. Just truth. Just honesty. Just someone who has nothing to prove because they already know who they are. And then there's the fire, the kind of energy that cannot be tamed, categorized, or controlled. The passion that lives just beneath the surface. The emotional chaos that doesn't destroy, but awakens. It's not recklessness. It's intensity. And when someone owns their emotional complexity, when they allow themselves to feel fully, speak honestly, and move from a place of raw instinct, everything around them becomes more vivid. There's something captivating about someone who refuses to be predictable. Not because they're inconsistent, but because they're alive. Because they live from their soul, not from a script. Because they'd rather be misunderstood than muted. Because every emotion they express is honest, unfiltered, and rooted in something real. This isn't about being difficult. It's about being dimensional, multi-layered, unapologetically human. And in a world where most people are trying to stay safe, to stay likable, to stay within the lines, someone who colors outside of them becomes unforgettable. That wildness, that emotional edge, it doesn't scare the right people. It calls to them. It challenges them to feel deeper, to show up more fully, to stop living on autopilot. It wakes people up. And while some may try to suppress or label that energy as too much, the truth is it's just enough for those who are brave enough to handle it. There is beauty in unpredictability when it comes from a place of alignment. A woman who can be soft in the morning and fierce by night, who can cry over art and laugh in chaos, who isn't afraid to express what others suppress, who can sit in the fire of her emotions without trying to numb it or project it. That kind of woman teaches others how to feel, how to stop living from the head and start living from the heart. And what's most captivating about this energy is that it doesn't try to be seductive. It just is. It's not premeditated. It's not polished. It's raw. It's alive. It moves like music and strikes like thunder. And long after she leaves the room, the air still remembers her. This kind of presence is rare. It isn't manufactured, it's unleashed. It doesn't ask for permission, it claims space. It doesn't try to be liked, it demands to be felt. And in that rawness, in that wild grace, lives a truth that most people aren't ready for but deeply crave. It's not just the chaos, it's the control of it, the mastery over one's own emotional terrain, the refusal to be tamed, not out of rebellion, but out of devotion to the self, the awareness that true love, true connection, true magnetism can only be found when one is fully, truly, wildly themselves. There is no formula for being this kind of person. There is only truth, self-knowledge, the courage to stop shrinking and start expanding, the decision to no longer live by other people's expectations and start living by the rhythm of your own soul. And when that decision is made, everything shifts. The way people look at you, the way they speak to you, the way they remember you. Because you're no longer seeking to be desired, you are desire. You're no longer waiting for someone to unlock you, you've already opened the door. You're no longer trying to fit into a narrative, you're writing your own. That's what's truly seductive. Not appearance, not charm, not perfection, but presence, power, passion, mystery, the willingness to be fully alive, no matter how. Many people don't understand it, because the truth is, the world doesn't need more copies. It needs more originals. It needs more people who dare to feel deeply, speak truthfully, and live unapologetically. That is the revolution. That is the magnetism. That is the kind of energy that changes lives not by force, but by frequency. So, stand in your softness, protect your fire, own your rhythm, and never apologize for the depth you carry. Because in a world full of masks, being real is the most dangerous and seductive thing you can ever be.